Welcome inside the RX Muscle Studios in New York for another episode of Ask Dave, better known as #AskDave, brought to you by, as always, by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. Glad you can join us on this Wednesday afternoon 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions on diet, training, supplementation, IFBB pros, competitions, your questions on the Arnold, whatever is on your mind, it is all on the table. You can join us on the Muscle Central Forum on rxmuscle.com, on our official Facebook page, Instagram page. You can tweet your questions using #AskDave, or if you're watching us live on the YouTube channel, you can ask your questions on the chat box on the right-hand side. If this is your first time watching anything on RX Muscle, we ask that you hit the subscribe button below. As we bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, we are now, about 3.5 weeks out of the Arnold. The RX Muscle Iron Road to the Arnold Classic continues in about 45 minutes as we're going to bring on Fouad Abiad of SciTech Nutrition.
Yeah, it's super exciting. Fouad had a great season last year. He had those 2 big wins, and he'll be, hanging out at the booth and at all the Arnolds, and really helping to promote the SciTech line. And I didn't really get a chance to interview him after those wins, so it'll be interesting to get him on and find out, what his head is all about. And I know he's a big fan of the show, and appreciate all the support he gives us. He always, anytime we mention him on Muscle in the Morning, he always puts it up on his social media and everything like that. So that'll be exciting. Then next Tuesday, we're going to have Evan Centopani, which is, the interview I've been really wanting to do a long time, because Evan Centopani and I go way, way back. He and I worked together. I was the first guy who ever worked with him, and I'd like to believe that I was instrumental in helping, I guess you educate him regarding nutrition and supplementation, and we won a lot of shows together: Junior Nationals, the NPC National Championships, and he's a friend for a long time. So it'll be interesting to get him on the show now that has no contracts and obligations and stuff like that. So, and then we have Max Charles next Thursday. It just gets better and better and better. We're going to have a lot of important people on over the next 4 weeks leading up to the Arnold Classic. And I think this is an exciting time of year because, we had some dead months in December and January. Now the season is heating up. We got 3 big Arnold Classics coming up. SciTech Nutrition backing all our coverage. We're going to have stellar contest photos, interviews, wrap-ups, play-by-plays. The season's here.
Again, if you want to watch any of our past interviews, the past interviews include Dan Solomon from yesterday. We had Darren Charles last week, Jay Cutler a couple of weeks prior to that. All these interviews are available on our YouTube channel. So we start off in the Muscle Central Forum on rxmuscle.com. If you're not already a member, it is free to register. That is where all the banter, the analysis takes place, and you have full access to our entire photo gallery. Let's go to Old Nerd Ith. Love the name. We got a heavy question to start this show. Dave, I hate this show so much that I would rather lock myself in a closet with Christian Duke after he has eaten a whole tub of cheap dill pickle flavored whey concentrate, having no air to breathe but that of his violent, pungent protein farts, and nothing to hear but the sound of said farts and the constant cackle of his voice as he looks toward his rear and shouts at himself about how the loud farts are preventing him from telling me about all the states where he holds press passes, and that if his ass doesn't shut up and gives him a chance to speak, he will stop talking altogether and start texting his best buddy, Jim Mannion, instead.
Winner.
Email me.
Winner.
Sid@speciesnutrition.com. You get Nitrolize. We will even give you a gym bag and a blender bottle. That was classic.
And we'll give Christian Duke your cell phone number.
Oh, boy. Anyway, here's the deep question. My question is about Big Ramy. Dennis James just had an interview with Jim Egypt wherein he made more accusations about Bader Budai, this time claiming that Bader is a sociopath who has no concern for Ramy's health or life. According to Dennis, Ramy has been forced to appear before Bader and take 3 times the amount of injectable gear Dennis instructed. Bader allegedly told Dennis in response to this, if he dies, he dies. I'll just get me a new one. Big Ramy seems to be stuck in the middle of the feud between these two, and he could be the one to set the record straight about all of this. How likely is it? Could you get him on the show to dispel some of the lies that have been told about him? Is this something Chris Aceto could find out? If there's someone else who isn't involved in this drama, who would know the truth?
Well, as King Solomon, I sit here and I tell you, the truth is somewhere in between, I'm sure. Dennis James is a good guy, but Dennis doesn't like Bader, and Bader doesn't like Dennis, and there's this feud going on. So, of course, there's a lot of punches being thrown in both directions. Personally, I think that Bader is a very sarcastic, has a lot of humor. So if he did say he dies, he dies. I'm sure that was said. That was a line from Rocky IV, obviously. I think that was funny. I think it was ironic. It was not done in a malicious way. And to be honest with you, I think Bader has these guys' best interest at heart. Look, Bader is got a very large ego, and he deserves it. He runs the most popular gym in Kuwait. He's got a staple of athletes there that are doing tremendously well. He wants to see them continue to do well. There's a lot of jealousy over the fact that Bader has got such a great gym there and a setup, and he's got money to be able to support these guys and have them live in Kuwait. And you know what? I think it's great for bodybuilding that he's doing that. And I don't think that Bader is telling these guys to take any more drugs than these guys are already taking on their own out there. Believe me, I hear these dosages these guys are taking. I doubt Bader is telling them to take any more than he needs to. First of all, Chris Aceto is doing Ramy's diet. And I believe that Ramy is listening to Chris right now. I think he's in a good place. I think that Bader has a lot of enemies because of the fact that he's successful in what he does. He is a man of his word. When he gives you his word, it's golden. And I believe that, wholeheartedly. I also, think that Dennis James has also got, the athlete's heart the athlete's best interest at heart. And I think that that's important to know, too. I just think that they had a relationship at one point. It broke up, and it's never going to be amended. I just believe that.
Next question from Monstro. Dear Dave, I hate this show because you never get Flex Wheeler on live. So how about you address that first? He is on our priority list, right?
Yeah, I think we'll get Flex Wheeler, but I think we should get him after the Arnold. We have so many athletes who are competing in this upcoming Arnold Classic. I think at some point we'll get Flex. It's going to be a long interview, obviously. Flex has got a very, very long, convoluted career with his car accidents and ninja attacks and obviously the kidney transplant that sidelined him and prevented him from competing again. And he's had, he's quite possibly might have been one of the most gifted bodybuilders of all time. So I certainly want to interview him. I know him personally. It's not like it's a matter of we're not going to be able to get him. It's just a matter of when we'll get him.
His question is, what do you think in using Anadrol 50 mg per day during pre-contest in a keto diet to keep full and vascular? I know you don't like orals, but in your opinion, what is the best pre-contest androgenic oral? So I guess it's a two-part question. The second part is about your best pre-contest androgenic oral and best anabolic oral.
Like I said, I'm not a huge oral fan, only because they're really not necessary. The injectables do everything the orals do, and just as well. The most androgenic anabolic steroid is Trenbolone. Way more androgenic than Anadrol. So if you want to take an androgenic steroid, take Trenbolone. I know a lot of guys like to take Anadrol or something comparable when they first start their diet. I'm not against it because when you're dieting, it's not the Anadrol won't kill your appetite. Just for the strength increases, because they increase strength. So a lot of people find they lose a lot of strength when they first start a diet because they lose a lot of the fluid retention that they're holding. Having said that, once again, orals are not all they're cracked up to be. I mean, they sound glamorous because you can pop this pill that it's very powerful and everything like that. But to me, I would rather use a very strong injectable anabolic steroid. I guess you could say regimen. I don't think that they're necessary, but if you do choose to use them, I don't think 50 milligrams a day for 6-8 weeks starting out the diet is necessarily the worst thing in the world, as long as you're getting your meals in.
For those watching on our YouTube channel, again, right now, we're taking the questions first from the Muscle Central Forum. Again, those are that's the RX Muscle community right there, so we want to give them precedence. Again, if you are not already a member of the RX Muscle Forum, the Muscle Central Forum community, sign up. It's free. That is where all this discussion takes place in week round. And, of course, with the Arnold coming up, that is where we're going to have our entire photo gallery. Of course, we thank our friends at SciTech Nutrition for sponsoring our coverage of the Arnold Classic, so that is where you want to sign up. Let's go to Animal Scent. Hate this show. Dave, my right lat has been bothering me for 2 months now. Feels sore all the time, like when you get done doing a good back workout, but the soreness won't go away. I've been to the chiropractor who tried scrapping the lat out with a metal tool. That didn't help. And then when I went to get a massage, that didn't help. What is this from, and how can it be fixed?
Well, look, I don't know all the variables around what you might have done to yourself, whether it be an injury in the gym, whether you took an injection into your lat and maybe traumatized a nerve in there. It could be a number of things. I don't know if you've gone for ART therapy, which will specifically target those lat muscles, because a lot of times you got to remember the long thoracic nerve that goes through the lat, innervates it and makes it contract. It goes through the middle of the muscle. If the muscle gets damaged or injured and scar tissue builds up and pinches on that nerve, you're going to get nerve pain. The only way to release that nerve pain is to release that muscle, to get rid of that scar tissue. Massage is good, but it's not targeted, so you never know if you're really getting the area you want to get. Adjustments will only adjust the spine. It's not going to fix the musculature. ART addresses the musculature while you're moving the muscle. So what the practitioner will have you do is move your arm while he's stripping that muscle. And I mean, like Derek Farnsworth does that. My good friend Derlin Castro does it. There's practitioners all over the country. If you go to activereleasetechniques.com, you can put in your zip code and find a guy or girl. And, they can break that scar tissue up, releasing that nerve, and I think that'll help your nerve pain.
Let's go to BuffGuard0119. Dave, hate this show so much I'd rather work for Steve Bleckman for free while doing anything he asks, eating 5,000 carbs a day while cutting for a show because George Farah told me to. Well, never mind, I don't hate the show that much. I recently broke 2 ribs, specifically rib 9 and 10 on the right side, a few weeks ago at work. I'm currently following your keto diet guidelines for a 200-pound male. For obvious reasons, I have not been able to do any exercise. I, at this point, cut 1 meal out and basically been following the meal plan otherwise. Do you have any recommendations for what I should be doing differently, since I'm not able to really do any exercises at this time? On another note, when trying to get back into the gym after broken ribs, any tips?
Well, first of all, there's no excuse why you can't do cardio. So I would continue doing cardio, maybe even up your cardio a little bit so that at least you're burning calories, you're moving blood around. Believe me, the muscles will be much more likely to hold on to size if you're doing some kind of exercise. Even though it sounds like weird, if just walking on a treadmill will make you retain muscle on the rest of your body, absolutely. Laying on a couch is certainly going to cause more atrophy than doing some kind of exercise. So there's no excuse not to do exercise. I would stick to the same diet so your body is used to the food coming in. Obviously, if you're not as hungry and you want to cut back to 5 meals instead of 6, I think that's all right, but I wouldn't go lower than that. I wouldn't worry about the calories. You're not going to get fat. We want to make sure we maintain that muscle mass. If you cut back your protein too much, you can lose lean muscle tissue.
Let's go to our YouTube questions now. So again, if you're watching us directly live on our YouTube channel, and if you're watching for the first time, we ask that you subscribe, hitting the button below. A reminder that in 45 minutes or so, we're going to have Fouad Abiad. He's going to join us live on our show, Live With, right here on rxmuscle.com. Let's go to Sabi Lamine. Dave, what do you think about using T3 pre-contest? Is it very necessary to use it, and what is the optimal dosage?
Nothing is necessary. Let's just get that straight. Although I do believe that T3, also known as Cytomel, that's the brand name, does definitely have a good place in fat loss. Okay, when you're dieting for a contest or dieting at all. The key with T3 is that any kind of thyroid hormone metabolizes protein, fats, and carbs equally. So we don't want to lose muscle mass on this. So the best thing to ensure that you do is never just take plain T3 without anything else. You want to take something that spares muscle, whether it be clenbuterol, growth hormone, anabolic steroids. If you're on something like that, any of those compounds, they will preserve the muscle loss and will only cause the loss or the metabolism of of fats and carbs, which is what we want. I always start my athletes off on about 25 micrograms per day, and I increase that by about 12.5 micrograms every 2 to 3 weeks as necessary, never going over 100 micrograms, preferably staying under 75 if you can avoid it. And that's the simplicity of it.
Let's go to... No, Daniel Veluzzi, we're not going to be doing a live stream of the Arnold Classic. Should we give them the plug, Dave?
Dan Solomon will.
Dan Solomon, digitalmuscle.com. Actually, we had Dan Solomon on live with yesterday, so if you want to hear about his plans for the Arnold Classic, you can watch his episode of Live With on our YouTube channel. Let's go to Snowman Banjo. Sorry I can't bring myself to say I hate this show. What a nice guy. Wondering what's your opinion on intraset weighted stretching a la Ben Pakulski. Second part of the question is also any chance of you getting him or Frank Zane on the show?
Well, I think we are going to get Ben Pakulski on the show, definitely before the Arnold, to get his insights on that. So that's I can answer that, yes. As far as intraset stretching, when I always train, and I still to this day, I always stretch in between. Not excessively, but I do stretch out the muscles as especially the first couple sets before they warm up, as they're warming up, I should say. John Perillo is the guy who really started this fascial stretching thing between and before and after workouts. And he believed that the more you stretch that fascia, or the tissue that surrounds, the connective tissue that surrounds the muscle, the better the muscle, the easier the muscle can expand and grow into that area. Now, whether it really works or not, there's really not been any, I guess you could say studies that really demonstrate that it definitely helps, but I think it helps. I don't think it helps a lot. I think it helps a couple percentage points, but once again, you add up all the little percentage points at the end of the day, and it can help you build some muscle. So I think, especially when you're first doing the first 3 to 6 sets that you're in the gym, try to stretch. If you're doing lats, reach out, stretch your lats. If you're doing chest, put your arm against the door, stretch your pecs out. I don't think you have to go excessive with it, however. I know that some people believe in excessive stretching. I used to, get people to massage and release my calf muscles because I had trouble growing calves. And I used to go to my ART guy, Darlene Castro, and he would just break up the connective tissue in there. And I was convinced that was going to help my calves grow. Whether it did or not, I don't know. My calves did get better, but I don't know if that was what it's from. So I guess to answer your question, it can't hurt stretching. But don't waste, an hour or two a day doing it either.
We talked about orals, and some of you have thrown in Monica Lewinsky jokes, and as to why Dave likes orals and how your girlfriends like orals. I love it, love it. Let's go to Scott Stacey. What are loop diuretics, and what brand or kind of diuretic do you prefer?
I think we talked about diuretics. I don't know if it was this time or last show. I don't know if it was last show or the one before that. But, there's several types of diuretics in the way they work. Loop diuretics, the term loop implies the loop of Henle, which is part of the filtering apparatus in the kidneys. Inside these kidneys, there's millions of these little kidney tubular apparatus or filtering mechanisms, and there's millions of these little loops of Henle. In this loop of Henle, when the urine goes through there, or the blood goes through, I should say, and it extracts certain things, loop diuretics force sodium and potassium out of the body, and then obviously water follows that at that point. So loop diuretics directly force, the electrolytes to leave the body, and water follows behind. One of the more popular loop diuretics, Lasix, probably a lot of us have heard of that, force a lot of sodium and potassium out rapidly, and that's why they cause a lot of fluid retention, fluid loss. The problem with that diuretic is that when you lose too much electrolyte, sodium and potassium, and you start to cramp, you don't know which one you're missing. You don't know if you lost too much sodium or if you've lost too much potassium. So to me, that's too much of a wild card. I like to use a diuretic that will force sodium out of the body but not force potassium out. This way, if there is some cramping issues, you can just add sodium back. So Diazide happens to be a dual diuretic. It does act like a loop diuretic. It does force sodium out of the body. However, it has another component known as triemptorine that preserves potassium. In other words, it makes you retain potassium. So it saves potassium, so you only lose sodium. That's, to me, is the best diuretic to use pre-contest, because if anything goes wrong, you can fix it. Remember, people always worry, well, how does the thing work? They don't worry about, well, what if something goes wrong? Can I fix it? that's what you always have to be aware of. And that with diuretics, things go wrong real easy and real fast. And when they happen, it could ruin the whole show for you. So Diazide, much safer than a pure loop diuretic like Lasix, which is a crapshoot at best.
You're watching Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com, 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. Reminder, at about 5:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be joined by Fouad Abiad, so you're not going to want to miss that, live with Fouad Abiad right here on RxMuscle.com. Now, just to address one of the questions that's being tossed around on our YouTube chat, yes, this is, in fact, a live show. This is happening right now. For people wondering, as far as the questions being pre-recorded, our priority is going to be to the RX Muscle questions on the Muscle Central forum. So we take those first, and then we go to the YouTube questions, and we also take our questions from our Instagram page, our Facebook page, and Twitter page. But just to reiterate, yes, this is a live show. Let's go to Daniel Veluzzi. Dave, you're always going on about the benefits of macadamia nut oil and nuts in general. I have a severe nut allergy. What substitutes can I take in keto?
Well, extra virgin olive oil is a great substitute, which is not going to give any of the allergies that come along with nuts. You can also use avocados, whole eggs, fatty fishes like salmon, swordfish, red meats. So there's a whole bevy of different fats you can use. I just happen to like nuts because they taste good. And I like macadamia nut oil over olive oil because you can cook with it. It doesn't burn. It doesn't oxidize. It tastes better. But, extra virgin olive oil, as far as pouring oils onto your foods or using it, in terms of in substitution of mac oil is fine. Same health benefits.
Let's go to Style X. Your training tips on forearms regarding frequency and exercises.
I'm a big believer when you first start training forearms, if you haven't done them, to do them twice a week. But then I back them down to once a week, and I usually train them on bicep day or anytime I do. Sometimes I do arms together. I'll do it on an arm day. I don't believe in doing a ton of sets. I usually do wrist curls like this off of a bench, or actually off of my thigh, and I do it with a cable. I like to do cables. And then I'll grab it the other way, and I put the handle in my hand with my thumb tucked under like this, and my hand like this, and then I do the wrist curls like this. So I do overs and unders, usually 2 sets of each, with enough weight to challenge myself for about 12 to 14 reps. And I feel like my arms grow fine, because don't forget, they're getting indirect work on back day. They're also getting indirect work from arm day, biceps and triceps anyway. So I think that's enough. Once again, if you haven't been doing forearms, do them twice a week for the first maybe 6 weeks, and then cut it back to once a week.
Let's go to Drew V. Dave, do pro bodybuilders ever experience gastrointestinal distress? Thanks for your detailed and graphic response.
I think bodybuilders always have GI problems. It's very frequent. Think about it. Anyone who eats 6-8 times a day, things don't agree with you, you're going to have problems. Bodybuilders fart a lot. They have a lot of diarrhea and gas, and a lot of that can be avoidable, I think. And that's the key. Number one, watch your creatine intake. Creatine can cause diarrhea and gaseous problems if you're taking too much of it and your body's not absorbing it, and it's sitting in your colon and it's pulling fluid out of your body. Also, taking in whey products that are not whey isolates, pure whey isolates at least, that means they probably have lactose in them. Most adults are lactose intolerant to some degree or another, which means you're going to ferment the milk sugar in there, the lactose. It's going to cause malabsorption of some of the protein. You're going to get gassy. These are normal things that happen. People also don't take enough. They don't take a fiber supplement. Once again, there are people out there that don't like when I talk about Fiberlize, but there's a reason I created Fiberlize. I created it for myself, because when you eat 12 times a day, okay, even if you eat 6 times a day, you need to make sure that this waste products are moving out of the body rapidly. And Fiberlize is something that's going to do that. It's a dual fiber supplement, and anyone out there who uses it knows how great it is. Once again, you take a fiber supplement, you're not going to have gas and a bloated stomach all day. It's going to keep your stomach flat. So these are just pitfalls that people deal with. Now, are there real other problems like colitis, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, stuff like that? Absolutely. Just like it hits the regular population, it can hit the bodybuilder. And the bodybuilder is eating so much food that it doesn't really give the colon or the intestinal tract a chance to rest. So, you might want to try a detox program for 3 weeks, something like that I offer. And if you guys want to, send me if you email me at huge285@aol.com, I'll send you my 3-week detox for free. I don't want any money. I just want everyone to be healthy. I'll shoot it out to you. I've probably sent thousands and thousands of copies of this out now. Every time I offer it on the show, when I get it to my computer 10 minutes later, I usually have about 100 requests. So, guys, once again, if you want to try the detox, give it a shot. But once again, be aware of the pitfalls of how you can get this distressed stomach and address them. Address them with a fiber supplement. Address them with a pure whey isolate. Get lactose out of your diet.
So we got a couple of carb-related questions, so I'll ask both of them, and you can answer them in succession. The first one from Jorge Silva. He wants to know, when on a low-carb diet, how many carb grams should he have every day? And then the next question is from Aesthetics United. Your optimal carb range while on low-dose DNP 200 mg a day and 400 mg days.
First of all, 200 milligrams per day of DNP is not low dose, okay? You should never take DNP. And I know, some people are going to say, believe me, I believe in taking, performance-enhancing drugs that work in the right dosages. DNP has no place in anyone's drug regimen anywhere, because you know what? The lethal dose and effective dose are so close together that it's not worth the risk. And I've seen people die from it. People don't die from taking testosterone, but they die from DNP. Not a good idea. As far as carb intake goes, it depends what kind of a diet you're on. If you want to be on a ketogenic diet where your brain is using fats for fuel as opposed to carbs, you're going to have to stay under 50 grams of carbs per day. And I wouldn't even try to eat direct sources of carbs. I would just make it. If you're eating nuts, if you're eating vegetables, you're going to get some indirect sources of carbohydrates in your diet anyway. So just don't eat any starchy carbs. If you're on just a low-carb diet, then, it depends on what your metabolism is. Some guys can eat 150, 200 grams and then lose weight fine. Other people can eat more. Most people need to eat less. So it gets to the point where if you have to lower your carbs below, 100 grams, maybe I think people are better off going to a ketogenic approach at that point. Up your fats and decrease your carbs. Your calories will be higher, and you'll feel better.
Let's go to Strong Bear. Dave, what do you think, or what do you have to say about the Cellucor lawsuit of nitrates, and species products have any nitrates?
You're talking about the lawsuits against several companies, not just against Cellucor, that they're using like creatine nitrate, glutamine nitrate. And the attack on it is the fact that they're not found in nature. So it's not really a natural supplement, and so it shouldn't be sold as a natural supplement. Look, everyone in our supplement industry is trying to find the edge, trying to find that product that will separate them from everyone else so they can make money. Unfortunately, I'm not that smart business-wise. I have so much integrity that I only want to produce supplements that I know are healthy for people and that I feel that people will want to use and get benefits out of with effective dosages. So I make the best quality whey protein isolate on the market. As a matter of fact, we just made it better. The new one that's coming out is going to have it won't have 27 grams of protein, it's going to have 27.5 grams of protein because I found a higher yield whey isolate. And I don't care about spending the money because I want the best products on the market. I put out an essential fatty acid supplement that gives you real dosages of these essential fats. I give you a joint and connective tissue, product that gives you real dosages of glucosamine and MSM. So to me, when I see these lawsuits, I'm kind of happy in a sense that maybe the industry is getting cleaned up. I feel sad because I want to see everyone make money and all the companies do well. But you know what? If you don't play by the FDA's rules, they're going to come get you. And, you're rolling the dice. And a lot of companies out there roll the dice. They make a lot of money quickly, and then they wind up having to, fight lawsuits and or prison sentence. So I'm not willing to go there. Done it. Been there already. I want to produce high-quality supplements that people will want to use because they're going to get health benefits as well as performance benefits. And if I have to muster the storm of people doing sensationalistic things, that's okay, because you know what? People are coming back to me now and they're saying, you know what, Dave, you were right all along. I'm sick of all these hype supplements. I'm sick of all the crap that people are selling, these proprietary blends where they don't tell you what's in the products. I want products that I know what's in there. I love your products. They taste great. They don't bother my stomach. They're effective dosages. I feel them. You write everything is full disclosure on all your labels. And you know what? That makes me feel good when people can say, you know what, Dave, I respect what you're doing.
Let's go to Ricky the Problem. I hate this show so much. I would rather have Guy Fieri from Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives get me ready for my next bodybuilding show than listen to you. I know how good of friends you and Chris Aceto are, but is there anything you disagree with him about when it comes to diet and supplement protocol? Be honest, his feelings can take it.
I thought you were going to say if there's anything we disagree, period. But, as far as supplements and everything, I go, Chris is kind of, like I said, he's like the Italian chef that doesn't really know what's in the brew. He's kind of basic. He's very basic with supplementation, with, dietary recommendations. With him, it's more intuition. I almost believe that if you gave Chris sugar, like a vat of sugar, he can give it to his athletes and get them in shape, and no other food. That's just the way he is. He knows how to manipulate nutrition. He's got good instincts in terms of how the person looks and what to manipulate. So in essence, I think that I probably, recommend a lot more fat intake and I'm more specific as to what type of fats, whereas Chris might just say, take a little olive oil and a couple nuts here and there, or a tablespoon of peanut butter every once in a while. I'm a little more specific with that. I'm much more of a technician than he is of a technician, because I'm more into the science. You need this many grams of this many grams of that. I'm very technical, and that's how I always learn. Chris is more intuitive and flows with how his intuition goes. And like I said, it's hard to teach someone intuition. It's easier for me to quantify what people need, grams of this, grams of that, milligrams of this, milligrams of that, and I can teach people the system that I use. So in essence, that's where we kind of differ a little bit, but our insights into what a person should look like on stage, how to get there, because Chris will cut your carbs back if you got to get in shape. We all know that you need to reduce carbs. Only George Farrell will say you don't need to reduce carbs to get someone in shape. We ideologically. Yes, thank you, Sid. We both get along pretty much the same, but maybe how we get to that point is a little different.
Aaron DePour, Dave, your fondest memory from the 90s era of bodybuilding, and do you think IGF was a factor in the physiques of the 90s versus today?
I think I might have been one of the first few people to use IGF back in 1995, believe it or not, that far back. And I heard Dorian was using it. I don't know if he was or not. But I used it successfully and put a lot of size on. And I think that what eventually happened was that a lot of people started saying, oh, Dave got huge. I need to use it too. So I think it started getting more prevalent toward the end of the 90s. A lot of people were using it, and then it kind of died off. And then when the peptide websites came out in the mid-2000s, I think a lot more people started using it again. I don't know what the potency of it is nowadays compared to what it was. I think that people are just bigger nowadays because they know nutrition, and that these barriers have been broken. I said it in my video, Reconstruction of a Bodybuilder, that I made many years ago with the late Matt Duvall, that right in the beginning, I was being interviewed on camera, and I said, the reason why you're going to see more 300-pound bodybuilders from now on and into the future is because the barrier has been broken. Dorian broke that barrier. People thought 300 was impossible. Once he became 300, I knew it was possible. I became 300. And then you got more people, and now everyone is 300 pounds in the off-season nowadays. So it's a common sight. So I think that, once again, it was like when the 4-minute mile had to be broken. No one could break it. Once it got broken, 3 people broke it in the next 6 months. And that's just how life goes. We progress. It's called evolution. The first part of the question, I believe, was what's it?
That was a question.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought there was another one.
No. Let's go to J_A Fitness. Your take.
My fondest memory of the 90s.
Yeah, right.
My fondest memory of the 90s, and I want to say this because people are going to think I'm going to talk about the Olympia or something like that. And I've mentioned this before. It was 1993, okay, at the NPC Atlantic States at Hofstra University. They were holding it right in my backyard. I went to see the show. I was sitting with a bunch of bodybuilders, my good friend Doug Wentz and a whole bunch of other people, and Dorian Yates was guest posing. He had won the Olympia the year before in Helsinki in 92, and he looked pretty good. He was ripped and everything like that. But he came out on stage. He was 290 pounds. He was 6 weeks out from the Olympia, which was his best Olympia win of all time, 1993. He looked like a crazy freakazoid. I had never seen a human being who looked like that. His calves were like tree trunks. He was so big. I was so impressed with him that I was like, that's what I want to look like. And that, to me, made the biggest impression on my life. Seeing him at that guest posing, I'll never forget it.
Let's go to J_A Fitness. Your take on L-carnitine, both off-season and while dieting.
L-carnitine is a good adjunct, I guess, to a fat-burning stack. I don't know if I would take it on its own. I have it in Lipolyze. I put it in my fat burner because I do believe it's important. I like acetyl L-carnitine a little better than the pure L-carnitine. And once again, it might be a 0.5 percentage point increase in fat burning, but when you add up all those 0.5 percentage points, they add up. But it's not going to do anything dramatic. It's like people think, oh, I'm going to take L-carnitine, I'm going to burn a ton of fat. You're not going to burn a ton of fat, but it might help a little bit. And once again, if you put all the little bits together, you got a lot. So that's how it goes. You take the right essential fatty acids in, you take the right vitamins and minerals in, you keep your carbs low, you take a little bit of L-carnitine, you add everything in together, and you get great results. It's not just one variable.
Time for one more question. A reminder, at 5:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is in about 20 minutes, we're going to be joined live on RX Muscle with Fouad Abiad, the man they call Hoss. He's going to be on live with RxMuscle.com in about 20 minutes. You're not going to want to miss that. Last question goes to Marco Barich. Dave, your opinion on intermittent fasting and feeder workouts.
I always get these questions. We got a lot of intermittent fasting questions. Let's the feeder workouts are these workouts that people, I believe I'm quoting this right. People like to do like maybe chest every day at the end of every workout, a little bit of chest. I don't like that. I don't like it. I don't think it works. I think that it overtrains the muscle. And here's my personal life experience with that. I used to do push-ups. My dad was a big push-up guy. He's like, if you could do 100 push-ups, you could have a good chest. So I would always do push-ups my whole life, and I always was very good at it. And when I started weight training, obviously my chest got to a certain size and never got bigger than that. Because push-ups basically are endurance-type exercises after you're doing hundreds and hundreds of them. And I just continued to do push-ups even though I started training chest with weights once a week. And I noticed that my chest wasn't growing so good. And I said, maybe I should stop the push-ups. But I felt like guilty because my dad had beat me into my head pretty much that these push-ups were so important. I just thought I couldn't stop it. So I stopped them for like 6 weeks, and my chest grew like crazy. And I realized I was overtraining my chest. So I don't believe in feeder workouts. I don't think they work. I think maybe if you did it for a week or two, it might work initially. But I wouldn't do it long-term, that's for sure. Now, the other part of the question was what again, Sid?
Intermittent fasting.
Oh, intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is something that I do all the time now because I don't eat 8 times a day anymore. It's eating for a limited amount of hours throughout the day. I only eat 12 hours out of every day. It doesn't happen every day, but most of the days I do that. In other words, I stop eating around 11, 12 o'clock at night, and I don't eat till 11 a.m. to 12 noon the next day. So I try to go and the advantage of that, and I've mentioned this before on the show, is that you're giving your internal organs, the organs of digestion, the liver, the intestinal tract, the kidneys, you're giving them a chance to rest, to detox, basically. So after 8 hours after your last meal, it's going to take 8 hours to digest that meal. Once that 8-hour mark is hit, for the next 4 hours, you're basically saying, okay, detox yourself, body. But if you do that, you better take a fiber supplement to bind up all these toxins and pull it out of your body, okay? Now, how long can you do intermittent fasting? Well, you can do it as long as you want. Some people, like I said, I'm living on it all the time. But as a bodybuilder, it's not practical because we eat so much. So what I tell people to do is once a year, do an intermittent fast for 3 weeks. In addition to all the other variables that I include on my 3-week cleanse and detox program. Like I said, I mentioned it earlier in the show. If you just tuned in, if you email me at huge285@aol.com, I will provide you with a copy of my detox free. I think that's a healthy thing to do. 3 weeks, I think everyone could do 3 weeks out of every year to detoxify themselves. Even you, Sid.
Even me? How did I get into this equation?
You're getting married. You got to detox.
I have 8 weeks to go.
That's right.
I do. I should get
the first 3 weeks should be a detox.
I'm going to email you. What is it again? Huge285@aol.com.
Correct. I'm one of the few people with an AOL email still, yes.
It's true. For those of you who don't know, in this office, throughout the course of the day, you're going to hear, you got mail. And you know Dave got mail. That is going to do it for this episode of Ask Dave. Reminder, in about 15 minutes, we're going to be live with Fouad Abiad right here on RxMuscle.com. For everybody on YouTube, remember, sign up for the Muscle Central Forum on RxMuscle.com. You will have priority on all the questions that are asked on this show. Again, rxmuscle.com. Register for the Muscle Central Forum. For Johnny Styles, Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We will see you in 15 minutes.